For most of his 20s, Neymar Jr. lived a life that looked, from the outside, like an uninterrupted carnival. Private jets, yacht parties in Ibiza, guest appearances at fashion weeks in Paris, and a social circle that seemed to include every celebrity on the planet simultaneously. The world watched and judged and occasionally admired, but very few people asked the more interesting question beneath the surface. What does a man who has everything and knows it eventually decide truly matters? The answer, it turns out, arrived not through a crisis or a reckoning, but through something far quieter and far more powerful: the accumulated weight of becoming a father, again and then again, and finding that the person he was most interested in impressing was no longer the world, but a small child looking up at him with complete and unquestioning trust. The shift in Neymar has not been sudden or dramatic. It has been gradual, visible in small gestures that tell a larger story. Fewer party photographs, more family dinners, fewer nightclub appearances, more school runs, fewer posts about his entourage, more posts about his children's first words and first steps. The man who once seemed to live entirely in public has begun, slowly but unmistakably, to build something that belongs only to him. A family, a home, and a version of himself that the highlight reels will never fully capture. David Luca da Silva Santos was born on August 24, 2011, when Neymar was just 19 years old and still playing for Santos in Brazil, before Barcelona, before Paris, before the €100 million transfer fees and the global icon status that would come to define him. His mother is Carolina Dantas, a young Brazilian woman Neymar had been involved with briefly, and the pregnancy arrived without a roadmap or a plan, at an age when most teenagers are still deciding who they want to be. What happened next said something important about the kind of man Neymar was beneath the flamboyant exterior. He stepped forward, publicly and without hesitation, claimed his son with visible pride, and began building a relationship with David that has deepened and grown more tender with every passing year. David Luca has grown into a strikingly handsome young teenager who carries his father's features, and by the evidence of training videos the family has shared, something of his father's touch with a football as well. The images of Neymar and David together, at matches, on holiday, in casual moments at home, consistently show a warmth and an ease between them that speaks of genuine closeness rather than performed paternity. And that relationship, built across the complications of a young father's chaotic life, remains one of the most quietly admirable chapters in the entire Neymar story. Neymar's relationship with Brazilian model and influencer Bruna Biancardi marked something qualitatively different from the string of high-profile romances that had preceded it, a settled, domestic seriousness that surprised observers who had long since concluded that Neymar was constitutionally unsuited to stability. The couple welcomed their daughter Mavi on October 6, 2023, a birth that Neymar announced with a level of emotional openness that startled even his most loyal followers. Photographs of him in the delivery room, visibly undone, crying with a rawness that his football celebrations, for all their extravagance, had never quite managed to produce. Mavi's arrival during a period when Neymar was simultaneously navigating a serious knee injury seemed to accelerate something that had already been quietly developing, a reordering of priorities that placed his children at the very center of his world. The family later welcomed a second child together, Helena, born in July 2024. Though the pregnancy and its circumstances attracted considerable media attention, the birth itself was met by Neymar with the same public tenderness he had shown with Mavi. Whatever the complications of his personal life, the consistent thread running through every new chapter of Neymar's family story is an unmistakable desire to be present, to show up, to hold the child, to cry openly and without apology in front of the world. Social media has handed Neymar something that years of football press conferences never quite could: The ability to show the world who he actually is at home and what the world has seen when he has chosen to share those moments has been quietly revelatory. There is the video of him dancing in the kitchen with David Luca as a small boy, both of them barefoot and laughing. Neymar holding his son's hands and spinning him in circles with the total unself-consciousness of a father who has forgotten he is famous. There is the photograph of him sitting cross-legged on a hospital floor next to Mavy's incubator in her first hours of life, leaning his head against the glass, eyes closed, as though proximity alone could communicate everything he needed her to know. There is the footage from his father Neymar Sr.'s birthday celebration, where 3 generations of the family sit together around a table in Brazil: his parents, his sister Rafaela, his children, and Neymar looks around the room with an expression that is neither performing nor performing the absence of performance. He simply looks like a man who knows exactly where he is and is grateful to be there. These are the moments that have gradually and genuinely shifted the public narrative around Neymar. Not a rebranding campaign, not a publicist's strategy, but the slow accumulation of real moments that tell a different and more complete story than the one the tabloids prefer. No account of Neymar's family life is complete without acknowledging the extraordinary role his father, Neymar Sr., has played in almost every significant chapter of his son's life, as manager, protector, negotiator, and above all, as the man who shaped Neymar's understanding of what loyalty and family obligation actually look like in practice. Neymar Sr. managed his son's career from the very beginning in Santos, through the landmark move to Barcelona and well beyond, operating with a fierceness and a devotion that has occasionally crossed into controversy, but has never once been questioned in its sincerity. His presence at matches, his visibility in negotiations, his willingness to absorb public criticism on his son's behalf, all of it speaks of a father who decided early that his greatest purpose was to clear the path so that his son could run freely down it. Equally central to the Neymar family constellation is his sister Rafaela Santos, perhaps his closest friend as much as his sibling, a constant presence at matches, on holiday, and on social media, where the two have documented a sibling relationship of exceptional warmth and irreverence that gives the world its most unguarded glimpses of who Neymar actually is when he feels completely safe. Together, Neymar Sr. and Rafaela form the emotional scaffolding around which the entire Neymar family is constructed, and understanding them is understanding more fully the son and brother they have never once stopped believing in. Neymar Jr. turned 32 in 2024, an age at which footballers begin, whether they choose to or not, the long process of imagining who they will be when the game no longer needs them. His career has been interrupted by injury more than any talent of his magnitude should have to endure, and those long months on the rehabilitation table, separated from the one thing he has always used to define himself, appear to have done the slow interior work that success alone rarely manages. They have made him think about what remains when the football stops. What remains, by every indication he has given, is this: 3 children who call him dad, a family in Brazil that has never stopped being home, a sister who sends voice notes every morning, and a father who still shows up to every match with the same nervous energy he had when Neymar was 11 years old, playing futsal in Mogi das Cruzes. The legacy of Neymar will always be argued over in terms of whether he fulfilled his extraordinary potential, whether he won enough, whether he was distracted enough, committed enough, serious enough, and none of those arguments will ever fully resolve. But running quietly alongside all of it, and growing louder with every year that passes, is a different and more human story. A boy from a modest Brazilian family who became one of the most famous people on the planet, discovered that fame was not the same as meaning, and turned slowly and with growing conviction toward the faces that had always been waiting for him to arrive home. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click on the notifications bell for more gist and stories on your favorite celebrities. Until the next one, please stay tuned.